The night dripped with opulence. It was the kind of evening where Hollywood's past and present intertwined under the glow of crystal chandeliers, where the old guard of cinema's golden age mingled, sometimes uneasily, with the rising stars of the digital frontier. A charity gala in the heart of Los Angeles, meant to celebrate prestige and philanthropy, had unknowingly become the stage for a generational clash that no one saw coming. And at the very center of it all, Barron Trump. Among the sea of finely tailored tuxedos and shimmering designer gowns stood a man whose mere presence demanded respect. Clint Harrington, a legend, a living relic from a time when talent determined stardom, not algorithms. At 91, he no longer needed to introduce himself. He was the kind of man whose silence spoke louder than any monologue, his steel gray eyes reflecting decades of struggle and triumph in an industry that had once belonged to artists, not influencers. But not far from him, someone else had set their sights on a different kind of fame. Layla Moreno was an apex predator in the world of internet culture. With millions of followers hanging on her every word, she had built her empire on the currency of controversy. Quick takes, provocative sound bites, and a ruthless ability to turn moments into virality. She wasn't here for the cause. She wasn't here for the history. She was here for content. Her phone was already recording when she spotted Harrington. A slow, satisfied smirk curled at the corner of her lips. This was it, the perfect moment. She lowered her voice into a hushed, mocking whisper, speaking directly to the live stream. "Oh my God, you guys won't believe who's here," she said, exaggerating her shock. Her audience, eager for the next viral spectacle, flooded the comments section with laughing emojis. She panned the camera toward Harrington, eyes glinting with amusement. "Look at this fossil," she sneered. "Why do they even invite people like this anymore? Wasn't he relevant in, like, the 1800s? The reaction was instant. Her followers exploded with laughter, egging her on. Encouraged, she raised her voice, making sure those around her could hear. "I mean, seriously, does he even know what TikTok is?" She scoffed, shaking her head. "This is what's wrong with Hollywood. They can't let go of the past. We need fresh blood, not these dinosaurs taking up space." The shift in the room was subtle, but it was there. Some guests exchanged uneasy glances, others quietly moved away. A few pulled out their phones, recognizing the brewing spectacle. But Harrington didn't move. He had seen this before. The mistake Layla made was assuming that silence meant weakness. And then, a voice cut through the air, clear, measured, unapologetic. "I think he understands exactly what's happening." Layla's head snapped up, eyes narrowing at the interruption. Barron Trump stepped forward. Tall, unshaken, unbothered. 18 years old, yet carrying the presence of someone who had spent a lifetime under scrutiny. He was used to being watched, used to being judged before he ever had the chance to prove himself. But more than that, he understood moments like these. His words didn't need volume. They carried weight. Layla's smirk widened, but something in her eyes flickered. This was even better than she had hoped. She turned her camera toward Barron, her voice laced with amusement. "Well, well," she mused, "if it isn't another relic of the past. Aren't you a little young to be playing knight in shining armor for the dinosaurs?" Barron didn't blink, didn't flinch. Instead, he met her gaze with something unsettlingly steady. "You're holding a $1,000 phone," he said, his voice even, unshaken, "streaming on a billion-dollar platform." A pause. "And you're using it to mock a man who helped build the industry that gives you that privilege." His eyes locked onto hers. "Do you see the irony?" Layla rolled her eyes, but her laugh was thinner now, less sure. "Oh, please," she scoffed, shaking her head. "What did he even do? Play cowboy and mumble dramatic one-liners?" Barron let a slow, knowing smile flicker across his face. Then his voice dropped, steady, firm. "Let me tell you exactly what he did." The crowd stilled. People leaned in. Layla's camera was still rolling. "Oh, please," she scoffed, shaking her head. "What did he even do? Play cowboy and mumble dramatic one-liners?" Barron let a slow, knowing smile flicker across his face. Then his voice dropped, steady, firm. "Let me tell you exactly what he did." The crowd stilled. People leaned in. Layla's camera was still rolling. "You're right," Barron nodded. And do you know why? Layla hesitated. Because of people like him, Barron said simply. Another pause. Because he didn't take shortcuts. His voice didn't rise, but the impact of his words was undeniable. Because he proved that audiences deserved complex characters, real stories. He didn't just play heroes. Barron's next words landed like a hammer. He showed us what made someone heroic. The room had changed. The energy in Layla's livestream shifted. The comment section, once filled with laughing emojis, was now riddled with questions, doubts. Her own followers were hesitating. Sensing the change, she tried one last time, voice faltering just slightly. You think just because your dad was president and you hung out with some old celebs, you know everything? Barron chuckled softly, shaking his head. I don't know everything. A pause. But I do know this. He stepped forward, just slightly, just enough for the moment to settle. Understanding legacy requires something your followers can't give you. Another beat. Barron tilted his head, eyes locked on hers. Perspective. The silence that followed was suffocating. Layla's phone was still recording, but for the first time, she had nothing to say. And Clint Harrington? He smiled, because he had seen this before. A new generation, a new battle. But some things never changed. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, a shifting tide of realization sweeping across the lavish ballroom. Conversations halted mid-sentence, champagne glasses stilled in midair. Layla's face, once painted with the smug certainty of someone who had never been challenged, began to lose its color. The bravado that had been her armor cracked, slipping from her carefully curated mask. She could feel it now, the weight of being wrong. But Barron Trump wasn't finished. His voice, steady and unwavering, carried the authority of someone who wasn't simply arguing, he was revealing something deeper. You talk about freedom, he said, his words deliberate. You talk about breaking barriers, but while you preach inclusion from behind a ring light, men like Clint Harrington actually fought for it. Layla's grip on her phone tightened, the once steady camera in her hands trembling ever so slightly. He cast diverse actors before Hollywood thought it was profitable, Barron continued, his blue eyes locked onto her with unflinching resolve. He told stories about racial injustice when speaking the truth could get you blacklisted. He directed films that challenged society's views when the safe route was silence. And he did it all without needing to announce his virtue. The room was no longer just watching, it was listening. Layla opened her mouth, instinctively reaching for the easy escape. Humor, a sharp laugh, a dismissive eye roll, something, anything to regain control. But the laugh never came, because there was nothing funny about this moment. And then, the moment no one expected, a slow, deliberate voice broke through the heavy stillness, gravelly, worn with time, weighted with experience. Son, Clint Harrington said, the sound of his voice stretching across the hall, rich and unwavering. You didn't have to do that. A stillness fell over the crowd, deeper than before. Barron turned slightly, looking toward the man he had just defended. But Harrington's eyes weren't on him. They were on Layla, and there was no anger in them. Just something far more piercing, understanding. Sometimes, Harrington said, voice softer now but carrying even more weight, the most powerful thing you can say is admitting you still have something to learn. Silence. Not the awkward kind, not the kind that begged to be filled, but the kind that shifted things. Something had changed. Layla's phone was still live, but social media, once her greatest weapon, was no longer in her hands. Her comment section, previously flooded with laughing emojis and snide remarks, had turned into something else entirely. Barron just schooled an entire generation. Never saw it this way before. Had to replay this 5 times. And then, the consequences, the real ones. Her sponsors called, not with offers, with concerns. Her follower count, once an unshakable testament to her power, began to drop. And Barron's impromptu speech, it spread like wildfire. But the final twist? A week later, Layla posted a video. No edits, no filters, no music. Just her, raw and unguarded, facing the camera. I was wrong. The words hung there, heavy with something unfamiliar. Accountability. Tears clung to her lashes, but she didn't blink them away. I built my brand on brutal honesty, she said, her voice softer than anyone had ever heard it before. But Barron Trump showed me what real honesty looks like. It's not about tearing people down for engagement. It's about standing up for what matters. She exhaled as if finally understanding the weight of her own words. Then, she turned her attention to Clint Harrington. I disrespected not just you, she admitted, but everything you represent. I mocked a lifetime of work that made my career possible. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm promising to do better. The internet, so quick to attack, so quick to condemn, paused. And then, respect, recognition, growth. When Barron was later asked in an interview about the incident, he didn't gloat. He didn't belittle. He simply said, respect isn't outdated, it's timeless. And Clint Harrington, he responded with something even more powerful, a handwritten note, a simple sentence that Layla would later share with the world. The true measure of character isn't never making mistakes. It's learning from them, because in the end, legends aren't just born, they're remembered. This wasn't just a moment, it was a reckoning, a reminder that respect, legacy, and true integrity never go out of style. Do you think today's culture moves too fast to appreciate those who built the foundation? What do you think about Barron's response? Let's have a real conversation in the comments. If you believe in standing up for what's right and respecting those who paved the way, hit subscribe now. Don't miss more powerful stories that challenge the narrative.